I had an alcoholic dad, and that certainly wasn't a good example for him to set for me. And unfortunately, at the age of 9, then he passed away. And that was significant because my mom was left to raise me all by herself. And then I was left to get in trouble a lot of times. I got arrested for the first time at the age of 13 for breaking into cars. At the age of 23, I had become so involved with drugs and alcohol that I had a lot of fractured relationships with friends and family, to the point that I ended up with no place to stay. And the final straw that brought me to the mission was I was out. I got into a fight and I ended up in a hospital. There was just no other place to go at that point. So I lived at the mission for 5 months. They preach a sermon at lunchtime and then once again at the supper. So then you're getting a lot of exposure to the gospel, and you're really in a position to where you're either going to accept Christ or you're going to reject Christ, because you've got to make a decision because it's right in front of your face. And I finally came to a point to where I understood that I didn't really need to understand the whole Bible in order to understand just the gospel components and make a decision. So that's what I did. About 2 weeks in, then I gave my life to Christ, and I knew at that point that I wanted to get past drug addiction and the alcohol addiction and turn my life around, if anything, to come back and then be an inspiration for these men, and then to help them get through it as well. So coming out of the mission, I knew that I needed a career because I just didn't have any kind of skills to where I could earn a living. And I had worked more of the blue-collar jobs, and I knew that that really wasn't the best way forward for me. And so I went back. I got my associate's degree, and then my bachelor's degree, and then my master's degree. And now I'm married, and my wife, Christy, and I have a 4-year-old girl, a 1-year-old girl, and then we have a boy on the way. I was at my lowest point at the homeless shelter, right? But the good news of the gospel was that salvation is a free gift, and it's not contingent on good works from the start, right? So that was sort of irrelevant, and it was powerful for me to know that God has a plan for my life. So even the bad experiences that I've had pre or post salvation, God can still turn that around and then use that for good and for His good purposes. I don't think there's any way that God would provide our church the resources that He's provided, the influence that we have, and place us in a city of great need if He didn't want us to go there, right, and to take the gospel there. The men at the homeless shelter, from the world's eyes, they have no hope, right? And so as the church, we have to be the ones to take hope to them, to believe in them, to believe that they're going to succeed, because we know that if God gets a hold of any of them, that He can use them in a tremendous way, just like He used me.